How's it going, everybody? My name is Waffle Rowlet and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. Today, I'm going to be bringing a video where we're talking about the top 10 new Pokemon games that need remakes for 2022. So yeah, basically sit back, relax. But before we do any of that, the comment of the day from the previous video right here. Thank you for leaving this comment, mate. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for answering the question. And also, if you want to be featured in tomorrow's video, the next video, well, here's the comment question of the day for today, which is, what Pokemon game do you think deserves to have like a remake? Like, what spin-off game deserves a remake? Let me know and let's get started. So, Pokemon remakes of specifically spin-offs are becoming more and more likely. I don't know if you've all noticed, but recently, like, there's been an increase in the amount of spin-off remakes we've had, with Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Remake getting, like, you know, made, like, for Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team, and then, of course, new Pokemon Snap, which came out earlier in 2021. So the question then becomes, well, what spin-off remake might come next? So the first possibility has got to be Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky. Now, this game did come out to some negative reviews by the media back in the day, but was praised by quite a few of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon fans for some of the new things the game tried, like the charming storyline in the game, you know, as well as like some new Wi-Fi features and an amazing soundtrack, apparently. Overall, this is one of those like hit or miss type of games, but a lot of people would love to see it return. And also, since it would be a remake, it could fix a lot of those issues which some had, which was some of the visuals. And for someone like myself who only played Rescue Team, like Red Rescue Team, and also, like, you know, just played the recent remake, it would be a great way to try this adventure out by having a remake of it instead of having to go back and buy expensive copies for the original DS and stuff, or playing it on emulator, which isn't as fun always. Same way some people will get to enjoy Generation 4 for the first time with Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, since they could never play the originals and they're too expensive to buy. So Explorers of Sky would be a great possibility for a remake game in 2022. Pokemon Stadium. Now, it would be really cool to see a remake of the original Pokemon Stadium games, you know, like Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, but sure, yeah, Stadium only really featured what the original Pokemon, and Stadium 2 included the Generation 2 Pokemon, but I would think it would be really fun for, like, maybe a $30 game, like a $30 remake, you know, to happen, like to get a remake with improved 3D models, features, maybe even online, like, you know, proper play, a remake that basically features the first two generations of Pokemon for us to have these old school 3D battles in. You might say, well, I also want to have other generations, you know, why would I want this? Well, for that, they could may do a remake of number 8 on this list, which is Pokemon Battle Revolution. So Revolution was, well, quite revolutionary, to be fair, for Pokemon, as it was a game featuring like hopefully like unique animations for the Pokemon themselves, and also super interesting battles and mechanics, and it was a full 3D game. Now, this game was sort of a perfect Pokemon battle simulator that made battles seem much more realistic in terms of the actual gameplay, right? And a lot of people really just were expecting and waited for a Pokemon Battle Revolution 2 to happen, to release, but that never really happened. And that has kind of like been because the fact that we had the release of Pokemon game like X and Y, right, which finally had 3D battles with Wi-Fi battles and stuff like that, which made the need for 3D battle simulators to kind of simulate that feeling of like what a 3D Pokemon game would look like less necessary in the world of Pokemon games, right? It just made them kind of like unneeded, so to say, and that's why we never really saw that happen since. So who knows? Pokemon Rumble is next, and this is one of those strange spin-offs that sort of just ended up being forgotten, I would argue. I'd argue, though, that Rumble, which did have a second game release a few years back, I mean, it's almost been 5-6 years since then, it's been a long time, okay? But basically, we did have one of those back in the day, and I think this is one of those games that has the largest chance of actually getting remade on the Nintendo Switch, as it's a small game, and not as difficult for the Pokemon Company to put together compared to something like Battle Revolution or Stadium, as well as some of the other games on this list. Why not give us another Rumble game as like a small bite-sized little meal while we wait for the release of a different game? Like, for example, what we have right now, we have a bite-sized like game with new Pokemon Snap. It's a smaller game, right? But we've got that, and then right next to that we have, you know, Unite, and then of course that's kind of like keeping us excited until the release of the big thing, which is BDSP and of course Legends Arceus early next year. So why not give us a small game like Rumble to keep us going? Now, Pokemon Conquest was such a unique game, and it's only kind of strange how they even came to the decision of making this game to begin with. Now, for those that have never played it, Pokemon Conquest was a tactical RPG Pokemon game that was made by Tecmo Koei, and basically it released on the Nintendo DS and was a game set in the feudal Japanese era, right? And now that we have Pokemon Legends Arceus, you could make a connection between Pokemon Conquest and Pokemon Legends Arceus, since both are kind of based on a similar time frame, right? With, of course, you know, there being a little little bit of a difference, but they have kind of a similar style to them. But this was basically a super unique game back in the day, and I was kind of like surprised we never really got a sequel, but that might have to do with the low sales of the game, which, you know, were pretty low. The game sold about 341,000 copies in Japan in 2012, so it wasn't like the best performing game in terms of sales. It did underperform, let's be fair here, because it was a very different game. It kind of had more like a Fire Emblem feeling to it than it had like a Pokemon feeling to it. So perhaps to some people this is a game they don't want to see, but I personally would love to see a Pokemon Conquest remake and a way for us to revisit this old era like Pokemon game. It would just be cool to see it. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Oh boy, why hasn't this game been remade already? You all know Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. It is probably the most wanted game to get remade, as it was the earliest of the 3D Pokemon games and was a game featuring a unique kind of like shadow Pokemon system and mechanic and forms, as well as a unique and special story, which made it like, which was specific to this game. It was very specific to this game. And of course, we can't forget the inclusion of Shadow Lugia, which was one of the coolest Pokemon ever. So question then simply is, where is Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness at? Why hasn't it happened? Why haven't we gotten a remake? Well, it's most likely because of the existence of the mainline games. Since they already serve as fully fledged like 3D RPG games, they don't see a purpose in remaking it because it would take a long time, right? This is a game that would require them to remake the whole thing, right? That means remake 3D models, remake the world, remake a bunch of Pokemon, etc. Like they would have to do a lot more extra work, which they don't really see any purpose in, because let's be fair, how likely is it to sell super well? Now, XD Gale of Darkness, in my opinion, is something I do want to see remade. I think it deserves to be remade. I think it's a fantastic game that deserves more love, but unfortunately it's one of those games that is less likely. And following up Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness is Pokemon Colosseum that runs into the same issues as XD Gale of Darkness. It's a fantastic game, features loads of like interesting mechanics and just a great story, to be fair, but the same issue happens with Pokemon Colosseum. It's a 3D game that was made back in the day to serve one purpose, to have us enjoy a Pokemon journey, a Pokemon RPG journey in 3D, because at that time, during what, the GameCube era, right, when that was happening, the PlayStation 2 was also out, and that era was when 3D games started to skyrocket and were performing better, and the only thing Pokemon had was, of course, if you remember, only games on 2D, right? They only had 2D games, so they required some other way to do a 3D game, because Game Freak didn't have the time to work on a 3D game as well as a 2D game at the same time, and also they weren't experienced with 3D just yet. That hadn't happened yet until they got to X and Y. That's when 3D became a bigger thing, and of course they did do some 3D in Generation 4 and Generation 5 with the, you know, actual mapping and stuff, but doing a fully fledged 3D game, well, they hadn't done that, but they realized there was a market for that. So how do you reach that market? Well, you get a different studio, you get somebody else, you pop them in, and you make them work on that, and that's how we ended up getting Pokemon Colosseum, and of course also Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. And in this case, Colosseum is a very unique game. The way the battles work, everything is just interesting, unique, and it's different, right? And that's why I feel like with the story and everything, it would be very easy for them to remake it today, just reusing a lot of assets. They could recreate it and give us kind of a rethreading of that old journey. It'll be really fun. So, next up, at number 3, we've got Pokemon Ranch. Now, Pokemon Ranch, in this case, I shall tell you, is kind of a forgotten game. It's more of like a side game, to be fair with you. Just kind of an interesting, fun little side game that wouldn't take too long to make, but also just something that, again, could keep us busy while we're waiting for bigger projects. That's what a lot of these games could really do, right? Besides maybe XD Gale of Darkness, Battle Revolution, Stadium, right? As well as Colosseum. But these sort of games, like Pokemon Ranch, are the sort of games that I think would be great for them to remake, to just keep us busy while we're waiting for bigger, you know, greener pastures, so to say, right, and bigger projects. And in this case, Pokemon Ranch does fit that theme. It's a small game, it's kind of a cute game, it's got interesting mechanics and features for you to enjoy. And following that is Pokepark, another game that kind of falls into that same category. Now, this is a beloved game. People love Pokepark, and it's honestly surprising they haven't done a remake of Pokepark or made another sequel, right? So it's really strange they haven't done that yet, because it's one of those games that is beloved. It definitely would sell well as well, by the way. It's not one of those games that would underperform in sales, so it is surprising they haven't done it yet, but it could be something that is in the works. We don't really know what's going on over at Game Freak or at the Pokemon Company or at Nintendo. We don't know what they're up to, what studios they've given the rights to, to make new Pokemon games. We don't really know. That's the biggest issue. We don't know what they're up to, but hopefully, really hopefully here, they are having someone work on a new Pokepark game, which would be great and such a fun thing to play while we're just, again, waiting for bigger and more interesting projects, right? It would just be a great game to keep us busy for a while. And finishing this off is Pokemon Rangers. Yes, of course, we have to include Pokemon Rangers in here. Now, Pokemon Rangers is one of the, like, most beloved Pokemon, like, spin-off games, I would argue. Some people hate it, some people love it, but I know it is a beloved game. I know my brother loved playing this game. He still has it on his DS. He still has it at home with the case and everything. Still there. Now, Pokemon Rangers is, again, one of those games that was kind of its era. It featured gameplay that was much more different than what you're used to with the mainline games, right? Having to use the, you know, little screen and whatnot on the DS to actually play and just do the little mechanics. And I would argue that with the, you know, Nintendo Switch, with the touchpad and just different things with the Nintendo Switch with the Joy-Cons, you could make a remake of Pokemon Rangers or even a brand new Rangers game that could utilize the things that the Switch has to offer to make for an interesting game. I mean, maybe even taking the Joy-Con off and, like, you know, doing some Harry Potter type shit, you know what I mean? Basically, they could do a lot with just what the Switch has to offer for a game like Pokemon Rangers. They could definitely do that. And also, this is one of those games that actually sold pretty well. It did underperform super bad. It did pretty well compared to most of the other games on this list in terms of sales. So why not give it another chance? Why not bring it back and let people enjoy Pokemon Rangers for another time? And so, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for this video. If you did enjoy it, then drop a like down below. And of course, here is the second comment of the day. Thank you so much for the comment, mate. I appreciate it. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we have the question of the day, which is, what Pokemon game do you want to see a remake of? Like, what spin-off game? Maybe you want to see Pokemon Magikarp Jump get a remake. I don't know why it's still out there. But if you want to see something like that, let me know in the comment section down below. What is a game you want to see a spin-off, you know, a spin-off game do you want to see a remake of? Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all the next time. Peace out and bye-bye.